And a very happy Monday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, Friday afternoon, after we went off the air, the Alameda County Registrar's Office finally put out an update on the Oakland mayor's race, and Barbara Lee won.
Quite frankly.
Oakland, what did you do?
Well, I'll tell you what Oakland did. The vast majority of Oaklanders did not vote. The total turnout number as of right now is 37.8%, which means almost 2/3 of Oaklanders said, I don't care.
For those of you who said, well, at least it can't get any worse in Oakland, you're about to be proven wrong. Because you just elected an 80-year-old woman who has the same exact worldview as Sheng Tao, and she's going to double and triple down.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What was the point of dumping Sheng at this? Sheng was fun. If you're going to go for corrupt and stupid, at least give me some entertaining.
Oakland Bees!
Well, they got rid of the entertaining one for a tired one.
78, the new mayor of Oakland.
We'll have more on that later on in the program. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. We know that L.A. Mayor Karen Bass has come under fire for cutting the budget of the L.A. Fire Department, a claim that she initially denied and I believe even still denies to this day. Why, I don't know. She did cut their budget, and that's an empirical fact. But she's also someone who's tried to play it both ways on defunding the police. Technically, she claims she is not a defund the policer, but she has played footsies with those who advocate for that, including the DSA bloc on the LA City Council and different groups and organizations who advocate for the same thing. Well, now the mayor is under fire. She's running for re-election. Her popularity has never been lower. And she knows she has to consolidate her support on the left wing of the Democratic Party to have any kind of chance at all at re-election. That's why she's appearing in public with members of the DSA on the city council. That is why she is trying to present her worldview and her platform in extremely partisan tones. And it's also why, Randy, she just met with Black Lives Matter and told them that she wishes she could cut the police budget, but just couldn't do it.
So Karen Bass is doing her State of the City today. She'll be unveiling her budget today. But on Friday, she met with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles as she listened to them present what they call the people's budget, which is all of their hopes and dreams that Karen Bass would slash the police budget to fund all the nonprofits that they're politically connected to. Karen Bass did not tell them that she would slash the police budget, but tried to do it in the most apologetic way possible. This was recorded at that meeting between Karen Bass and BLM LA on Friday night.
So let me just give you two categories of funding. There's the Community Investment for Families Department, which is funded at $40 million.
What do they do?
I'd like to know.
There's the department that Karen Lane is in charge of, the Gang Reduction Youth Development Department.
Oh, that's the one that we found out they were sending money to an actual gang.
Oh, yes. It's so unfortunate that we don't have more money to spend on that.
There's the department that Karen Lane is in charge of, the Gang Reduction Youth Development Department, which is funded at $46 million.
$46 million, and we know money in that department went straight to the leader of a gang.
So let me get this straight. We're spending money on Operation Inside Safe that has made the homeless population go up. We're spending money on gang reduction that's ended up paying for gang members and their activities. And when the fires occurred, we're spending $10 million on a consulting company that can't identify one thing that they've done.
That's L.A.
And there's the Economic Workforce Development Department, which is funded at $30 million.
What do any of these departments do?
That's not the point. The point is not improving the lives of the people who live here. The point is to enrich the people who run the organizations who are politically connected.
So none of those departments were cut.
So her first plea to the BLM crowd is, hey, all of these social service programs that you love, that you probably are profiting from, we're not cutting those, even though we're $1 billion in the hole.
Including the ones that are funding gang members.
At this point, members of the crowd, and they're not well mic'd, started screaming at Karen Bass because the police budget is like $3 billion, which of course it is.
Yes? Yeah. No, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
That doesn't account for the discretionary, nor does it account for all of the other things that we talked about. So
We could skip ahead because we know what they're saying.
It's not a matter of investments. We're talking about an ecosystem. So I would love for you to maybe sort of address that question around ecosystem.
I most certainly was not trying to compare that to how policing is funded.
See, they're insulted because she's talking about these programs that have tens of millions of dollars, but they want the money that's in the police budget, that's in the billions.
Putting her on the spot.
To how policing is funded, because it doesn't compare. Police, if you look at any city budget, the majority of the budget is for public safety or policing. That is true. And frankly, I am not in a position now to reduce that money. I cannot, and I've said that before, I cannot.
I'm frankly not in a position where I can reduce that budget.
So essentially what she's saying is, I wish I could give you what you're asking for, but politically, I just can't do that and survive.
Yes.
That is true. And frankly, I am not in a position now to reduce that money. I cannot, and I've said that before, I cannot reduce the funding to police. I can absolutely increase and figure out how we can make better accessible the money in health and human services, and actually really in human services.
I can't cut the police budget, but what I can do is cut from every other department so I can fund all of the nonprofits that you're connected to, BLMLA.
So what she's doing is buying them off.
Yes. And this is why the city is $1 billion in the hole.
And she's going up to Sacramento, and she's asking the state of California to bail her out. Well, right when she's unveiling her budget, she is openly acknowledging that because she can't politically cut the budget for the LAPD, she's finding all of these new sources of money to fund all of these politically connected groups to make them happy so they don't hate her and they support her for re-election.
Problem is they still hate her, and they might not support her for re-election. I'm sure she's going to get a challenger from the left.
Well, how do you make that argument? When they start complaining about what it is that she's doing, and she says, whoa, 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 you're not allowed to complain, you're bought off. I have the receipt right here. Look at that. Oh, yeah, check cashed.
I mean, she detailed in just 3 different departments $100 million of funding that's going directly to programs that are associated with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles.
Programs that we know do not work, and in some cases are directly involved in illegal activity.
Well, and that's what the crux of the entire defund the police movement is. As much as they wanted you to believe that this was some moral stance that police budgets are bloated, it's about a transfer of wealth from a department that is necessary to a whole bunch of nonprofits that don't do anything. It's a cash grab.
But here's the thing. There's not an infinite supply of money. There's a finite amount of money. So if you have one great big pie and you say, okay, I'm not going to cut the police budget because I can't do that. They won't vote for me in the Valley. They won't vote for me on the West Side. They won't vote for me in San Pedro. So I'm just going to find new money, I guess, by going to Sacramento. And remember what she said when she was asked how it was going in Sacramento. She said the Democrats have a supermajority, And because the Democrats have a supermajority, I think I'm going to get it. So she's going up there, and she must be telling them privately. You can't make this argument publicly. But she must be telling them privately, look, here's the deal. I'm funding all of these politically connected left-wing groups that are doing God knows what. And I need to continue to do that so I don't have mutiny on the left.
Oh, gosh. I just remembered there's a clip that I need to pull from this that I'll have the next break, because she talks about, I can't believe I didn't cut this at the time because I was listening to this in real time when I was downloading it. And I remember this, her pretty much apologizing that she cannot cut the police budget. She also talked about another program that she is funding that she wanted to make sure the people in this program, which is a bunch of ex-cons doing ambassador work, got raises from $40,000 a year to $60,000 a year, because she does not want them to enter a life of crime if they don't make enough money from the city.
So wait, we're paying them off and we're employing them in jobs that are not necessary so they don't go back to robbing people.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, I'll have that sound for you. I just remembered it. It's real good.
What a world. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you were on vacation last week and when you want to find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
Let's say that you want to hear even more nonsense in the office of Karen Bass.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's the Apple Podcasts app, the iHeart app,
No.
Spotify.
Oh, you're so optimistic.
Anywhere you get a podcast, you can search for The John Phillips Show, and you can hear us ripping on Karen Bass.
What a wonderful way to start your day.
All right, we have more sound from Karen Bass addressing BLM.
So Karen Bass outlined to Black Lives Matter Los Angeles why the city was in a $1 billion budget shortfall. And part of that was they didn't budget enough for lawsuits. Part of it, they say, was the fires. But another part of it was that they gave every single department in the city raises, not just the LAPD. And listen to her explain exactly who was getting raises and for how much and for why.
The other driver of the deficit were the raises, and I know you talk about raises, please, but raises were given to all city workers. Because when I found out that 64% of city workers do not live in Los Angeles because they can't afford to live in Los Angeles, then we raised the salary.
And now the city's broke.
Good job.
I think I mentioned to you last year that one category of the workforce that I was very concerned about, which we'll get into a little later, is the workforce that works with Deputy Mayor Karen Lane, who are the community intervention workers who were paid $40,000 a year. Now,
Community intervention workers that are paid $40,000 a year. Okay, who are they? What do they do?
Who are the community intervention workers who were paid $40,000 a year. Now, all of them were formerly incarcerated, gang involved, etc., who are now involved in destroying our community.
Okay. She said not most of them, but all of them came out of prison or were in gangs, correct?
This is what we know about every ambassador program, whether it's Urban Alchemy, it's the Metro Ambassadors, or this program. These are ex-con jobs programs. That's all they are.
And I was concerned that you can't survive on $40,000 a year. We gave you a $20,000 raise. Frankly, I don't think that's enough.
They went from $40,000 a year for this nonsensical ambassador job to $60,000 a year.
So they're just paying people with the hopes that by buying them off, they won't go back to illegal activity.
That's actually exactly what Karen Bass says.
I would like to pay them more than that, because especially if we've been operating in the legal and the illegal economy, I don't want you to go back to the illegal economy. And so I want to pay you enough so you don't have to do that. You should know that
I want to pay you enough so you don't have to go back to a life of crime.
So she's raising taxes, or I guess taxes are already high in Los Angeles.
They are raising the trash fees to try to bail themselves out. That is a de facto tax on every homeowner.
And it's the perfect kind of tax from their point of view because there are no restrictions in terms of how high you can raise it. So she's raising taxes and fees on you so she can buy everyone off that she can to try to get them to behave. Now, crime is on the rise, or has been on the rise in recent years, so clearly it's not working, and now the city's in a budget deficit, and she needs more money to continue buying people off or giving the ones that she's already bought off additional money.
You should know that in order to close the budget deficit from $800 million, we did a variety of things, and we've now reduced it down to $200 million.
And we didn't have to lay off any of those criminal ambassadors.
Well, she's up in Sacramento begging for money.
We gave everyone raises, including 50% raises, not 15%, 50% raises to ex-gang member community intervention workers. What their job is, we don't know, but we have to pay them so they don't go back to victimizing the neighborhoods.
And you notice she's not even making a pretense that it's about their performance. Oh, they've been on the job for many years. They know how to do more things. We're seeing a great deal of benefit come out of those departments. None of that was ever brought up. It's just we need to give them more money because if I don't give them more money, I think they're going to go back to stealing.
We're paying criminals not to commit crime.
And we need more. I'll tell you, if you're a member of the state legislature and you represent a different part of the state, not Los Angeles, and you give this woman a dime, you need your head examined. All right, we spent some time talking about the chaos in Los Angeles. Now it's time to talk about the looming chaos in Oakland.
Oakland, we need to talk. You got rid of my girl.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you were going to improve the city and elect somebody with common sense. And then nobody showed up to vote, and Barbara Lee won.
Quite frankly.
Great. You replaced a mayor who was universally recognized as being awful with someone who is older and more tired than her, who thinks exactly the same.
For more on Barbara Lee winning the Oakland mayor race special election, here is NBC in the Bay Area.
Good evening and thanks for joining me. I'm Gia Vang. It's official. Retired Congresswoman Barbara Lee will be the next mayor of Oakland. Former city councilman.
We need some fresh ideas from a 78-year-old.
Who will be, 82? In the first 4 years as being mayor?
Well, I think this only fills out the rest of Schenk's term, so she has to run for re-election next year in 2026.
I see.
It's possible that 1 year on the job, she might say, screw it.
Or maybe voters will.
Former city council member Lauren Taylor has conceded to the veteran lawmaker. Move comes a day after the latest tally shows Lee with a sizable 5,000 vote lead. Today,
which tells you how low the turnout was.
I just can't imagine living in a place where 911 doesn't work, among many, many, many other problems, and saying to myself, you know what? I think the rest of my neighbors here have this covered. I'm just going to stay home.
Today, Lee made her first appearance as a mayor-elect and at a community Easter event in Oakland. NBC Bay Area's Christy Smith was there and has more on the race results.
I just stopped by here today to say thank you, first of all. Thank you. And we love Oakland, right?
Retired Congresswoman.
She asked that like in a question. We love Oakland, right?
Well, a case could be made.
Oakland, right?
Retired Congresswoman Barbara Lee stopped by a park in Oakland today, speaking to the crowd for the first time as mayor-elect.
Thank you so much, first of all, for making me proud, for trusting me, for making sure you knew.
I mean, 2 out of 3 Oaklanders didn't even vote.
And it is ranked choice voting, so that's another issue.
What the issues were.
Lee joined several city council members and Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
What the hell is she doing in Oakland?
I'll tell you, go back to that segment we did at the beginning of the show on Karen Bass. When all the local issues are all in complete chaos, because let's face it, it's hard to find a subject that's not a dumpster fire right now. What you have to do is focus on the national so that people go back to their partisan tribes. And in a Democratic city, if you can get people to go back to their partisan tribe and you're a Democrat, you're probably okay. You're on firm footing. But if you get them to focus on what you're doing locally and whether or not what you're doing is working or good for the community, then they're going to dump you from office. So you can't do that. So you have to nationalize everything so people get focused on the shiny object.
On stage at the Easter Carnival. The appearance came shortly after Lauren Taylor conceded to Lee. Her campaign released a statement.
I think the final numbers, at least for what they have released now, is 50 to 45, which means because she broke 50, you don't go into all the ranked choice nonsense. So whoever voted for President Christine Grappo, your vote's not going anywhere.
Her campaign released a statement saying in part, quote, "This morning Lauren Taylor called me to concede the race. While I believe in strongly respecting the democratic voting process and ballots will continue to be counted through Tuesday,
There were total 100,000 ballots, and they need how long to count all of that?
It is criminal that it takes us this long to count ballots in the state.
The results are clear that the people of Oakland have elected me as your next mayor." She spoke briefly with reporters today. And
let's look at those registration numbers again. Okay? So there are 250,000 registered voters in Oakland. 90,000 came out to vote. Half of that went to Barbara Lee. So let's say of the 250,000 people that can vote in Oakland, 50,000 said yes. So 1/5 of the population got to decide what's going on for the rest of the population because nobody cared to show up.
I don't think that's enough to fill the Coliseum.
As your next mayor. She spoke briefly with reporters today and answered some questions about her priorities once she takes office.
Of course, public safety, meeting with our police chief, meeting with our department heads, our city administrator, really look.
And let's not forget, one of her public safety ideas is universal basic income for the homeless. It's almost like Karen Bass's program that pays gang members not to commit crimes.
Well, she's also the one that wants a $50 an hour minimum wage.
Yep. Good luck getting that through in the town.
Public safety, meeting with our police chief, meeting with our department heads, our city administrator, really looking at all of the issues, our unsheltered population, how we're going to move forward with economic development.
You know what's going to happen? What we're going to see, and some people are already speculating on this, like Seneca Scott, if you've got a mayor in San Jose that is aggressive on getting rid of homeless encampments, and you have a mayor in San Francisco that is aggressive on getting rid of homeless encampments, John, where do you think all the homeless are going to go?
Let's see. If you have a mayor that's promising them more free stuff, and she's telling the cops to look the other way when they break the law, my guess is they're all going to end up in Oakland.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
Lee's opponent, former Oakland Councilmember Taylor, said in his statement, quote, "This morning I called Congresswoman Barbara Lee to congratulate her on becoming the next mayor of Oakland. While the outcome was not what we worked for and hoped for, I'm incredibly proud of the race we ran."
I believe she's going to be a unifier. She's going to be the person that gets us the desperately needed charter changes that we need in our city.
Kevin Jenkins has been serving as the city's interim mayor.
The number one thing that the new mayor is going to have to deal with is the budget. I've spoken with the mayor-elect. We are going to be working on the budget next week.
I look forward.
They got to make a lot of cuts.
Well, and just wait until that Coliseum deal falls apart.
Which it already kind of has.
I look forward to everything that she can do. I look forward to participating as an Oakland resident.
Lee will serve the remainder of ousted Mayor Sheng Tao's term and be up for re-election next year. In Oakland, Christy Smith, NBC Bay Area News.
You wanted Barbara Lee. You got Barbara Lee. Good job, Oakland.
What do you think she's going to do? Because we know what's going on right now. We know with the budget, We know with the FBI investigation, we know about all of the problems that city is facing. That city is going off the rails. If you are a mayor, when your city goes off the rails, you can either find Jesus and say, okay, I had all of these grand ideas and I figured out that none of them work, so we're going to try austerity. Or you can say, the problem is I'm not getting enough of what I want, so I need to double and triple and quadruple down.
Oh, that's the route she's going to go. And she's going to do exactly what Karen Bass is doing and go to Gavin for a bailout.
My betting money says you're right. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Ricardo writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and says, finally, Oakland will be safe and prosper, and professional sports teams will begin to flock back to Oakland. No, maybe not.
Okay, we know for a long time that officials here in California have been trying to get us to buy electric vehicles so that the state doesn't consume as much gasoline and fossil fuels as we used to. A lot of people took the state up on their offer. Part of the pitch was, you won't have to waste money on gasoline and you won't have to pay gasoline taxes if you make the switch. Well, a lot of people ended up doing that. And now the state says we're missing out on a lot of gas tax money that we need and want. So now they're exploring the idea of replacing the gas tax with a pay-per-mile tax.
You know, at some point, they're just going to have both.
Oh, I'm sure.
But, of course, this is in the name of equity because all those rich electric car owners aren't paying their fair share on road maintenance.
Go get them, Gavin.
For more, here is CBS 8 in San Diego.
We begin tonight with new details on a new way to pay for California roads. With revenue from the gas tax dwindling, Californians could be charged for every mile they drive. Good evening. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo.
So now it's a tax for every trip that you make.
Okay, let's say you don't have a job and you get one and you have no money. If you try to commute to the job and you don't have money to pay the tax per mile, couldn't that, in theory, prevent you from getting to work?
A little bit.
Good evening. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. Caltrans is now studying a per-mile road charge applied to all drivers across the state to help fund highway maintenance that's now funded through the excise tax on fuel. And why this?
Then why is the 405 still full of potholes?
Good question.
The state says this new mileage tax would actually replace California's gas tax. Not everyone's convinced.
CBS 8's Richard Allen has more on the pilot program that has just wrapped up.
Well, that's right. Currently, about 80% of California's road and highway repairs are funded through the state's 59-cent a gallon gas tax, the highest in the nation. But with more drivers now switching to electric vehicles, the state is getting less and less funding for those repairs.
So all the state said was, we want to make sure you're as energy efficient as possible, get the hybrids, get the electric cars, and now they want to punish everyone for doing that.
Well, they want their money.
Now leading to this possible mileage tax for all drivers. And not surprisingly, not all drivers are on board.
Was anybody on board?
No, but they don't care.
No, not for it. Sorry, I'm a hard no on everything. I got to save my money where I can.
She's right.
And how much you want to bet she doesn't vote?
San Diegan Gail Hoffalina wants to put the brakes on any possible per-mile road charge for drivers, an idea the state's now exploring, as explained in this video released by Caltrans.
It's an innovative way to collect funds.
How much did producing that video cost?
Oh, they have plenty of money for that. That's why they need to raise taxes.
It's an innovative way to collect funding for roads and highways based on how many miles you drive instead of how many gallons of gas you buy. Because as we move toward a zero-emission future, the gas tax won't last forever.
So it doesn't matter if you have a Prius. If you can't afford to live, like, let's say, in the city of Los Angeles, so you move to Lancaster and your commute is 100, 150 miles a day, now you're going to have to pay up.
And whenever we move on to the next technology and the per mile tax doesn't work because we're, I don't know, levitating or whatever, they'll figure out a way to tax that too.
Caltrans just completed a pilot program to test out a road charge system, including a flat per mile fee of 2.8 cents a mile, as well as
nearly 3 cents for every single mile?
In a state where people commute long distances.
As well as an individualized fee based on a vehicle's fuel economy. The pilot also tested different ways of reporting mileage, including odometer readings or a special plug-in device.
The purchasing power of the fuel tax, which is the main way that we finance transportation infrastructure, has been steadily declining.
But not everyone's giving this potential.
Okay, if there's a plug-in device, then the government can track where you are at all times.
Oh, that's coming. They want to track your mileage. They want to know where you were. You want to lie to your wife and say you weren't at the strip club? Well, the state of California knows that you were at the strip club.
They have the receipts.
But not everyone's giving this potential new charge the green light.
Boy, we just have to do the puns, don't we?
A mileage tax in California is a money grab. Let's just be very clear.
San Diego Assemblymember Carl DeMaio led the charge against a proposed local mileage fee a few years back and says he's just as opposed to this one, which he says could cost the average Californian $900 to $1,200 per year.
Unfortunately, a lot of working families, poorer families, have a longer commute, so they'll actually pay a higher mileage tax. It's very regressive.
Wasn't Gavin just going off on how the tariffs are regressive and we don't like to affect poor people? And here we go with another plan to affect poor people.
This is about as regressive as it gets, but they don't care.
It's unfair.
DeMaio also says he's skeptical this mileage tax would replace the fuel tax, as the state has indicated.
That's nonsense. These people will never give up a tax. They're just going to add an additional one on.
And
it's going to be a tax and a fee. It's not.
Oh, sure.
They're not getting rid of the gas tax.
They're going to say that this one is necessary to keep the state operational, and the other one is almost like a sin tax. We're punishing you because of how you get from point A to point B.
And it would be up to the state legislature to decide whether this road charge would replace the fuel tax. Also, the results of Caltrans' pilot program should be released later this year.
There you go. Caltrans exploring charging you nearly 3 cents for every single mile, putting a transponder in your car so they track your movements, and maybe also still keeping that gas tax. How's that for living in California?
Well, here's also what's going to happen. Everyone's going to break that transponder. If you break the transponder, how can they figure out how far you've gone?
That's true.
I mean, this is a place where they require us to have catalytic converters, and it's not as if we break our own. People just steal them right off the cars.
Please don't put any precious metals in those transponders, because they will get stolen.
Oh, can you imagine if they make them out of copper?
And then we'll go through the same nonsense that we always go through, where local electeds are upset that you want to criminalize the theft of something so valuable.
You know, let's criminalize catalytic converters. Let's criminalize copper.
Well, here's what's going to happen. The honest people are going to be the ones stuck paying the bills, and the crooks are going to be the ones who break the transponder and don't have to pay the tax. So it's more of the same.